Symeonakis. He's a senior lecturer at the School of Science and Environment at Manchester Metropolitan University. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. We heard some more personal stories there. I think one of the issues, though, that concerns me is that a lot of those stories are coming out of developing countries with economies that are marginalized, which means that Western countries that have the economies to help won't be very interested. Is that a real issue? Because this will become everyone's problem eventually, but I feel it's not being addressed now because we're only seeing it in developing countries that don't hold the economic weight.
Yeah, this is true. That for the time being, the burden, of course, is in the south, and the internal displacement actually is mainly happening. I mean, the migration issue is really focused in the south, so it's a south-south situation with internal displacement being the majority of the problem. But the north will also have to deal with it because, as we see, there are waves of migrants looking for a better place to be, to secure their livelihoods, basically, to have a life. And that also concerns the north. There's no going back. There's no way of actually stopping this. Even if we try to minimize our emissions, we're going to still have the issue. The issue is already there. And so the north will have to deal with it as well.
Right. When and where do you think we'll see developed countries? For example, when might we see those houses in Palm Beach, Florida, have to move or try to engineer a way around the kind of damage that rising sea levels are going to do?
Well, this will happen very quickly. I believe within the next decade, we're going to see very important and big adaptation, as we call them, measures and engineering works happening in the developed world. But this is going to be a part of the situation, a part of the problem. It's not going to affect the South. The problems that the South will have to face, and it's already there and it's happening, will affect millions and millions of people. If we keep at the same path, it's going to be, by the end of the century, we're going to have a billion people internally and externally displaced. So some adaptation measures in Florida are not going to be the solution that we need to consider.
Right. And another reason I feel for inaction on behalf of a number of world leaders when it comes to rising sea levels in particular and climate migrants is that wealthy nations manage to find ways to, I use the word, engineer their way out of everything. Do you see that happening in a sense, for better or worse, that wealthy countries will be able to adapt via engineering to any kind of environmental disaster?
To an extent, yes, but that will be a fraction. It's not going to be enough. So there are going to be, like you say, engineering and adaptation measures that we will take. But if you look at wildfires and the displaced current situation and the numbers hitting Californians and Canadians the most, you realize that the numbers are so high that no engineering can actually stop these. So we're really going to have to tackle the issue of emissions. We're going to have to go to net zero by 2050. And that still is not going to stop all these issues of storm surges and sea level rising, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to have to be a concerted action. All countries are in this together. And it's very positive that we're seeing the new president of the United States actually going down the path of realizing that climate migration is a huge problem. And I think other countries will follow. The EU should follow as well.
Elias, since you've been studying this, I want you to tell me what you've seen. Describe it for me. I mean, with your own eyes, that actually most shocked and worried you about the phenomenon of climate migration and climate refugees.
I've personally not worked with migrants, and I haven't actually been in locations where things are happening, but I work with colleagues that do. A lot of my colleagues actually work on the migration issue, and some of my colleagues also work on issues of the exploitation of migrants, etc. So I know of very many stories in the Mediterranean, in sub-Saharan Africa, where is my area of specialization. And the droughts that we see, for example, recurring droughts and the severity of these droughts and the the duration of these droughts cause havoc, really. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's already become a devastating problem for many of the local economies and of the populations there.
Okay, Elias Symeonakis, thank you so much for joining us there. We appreciate it.